7 deals with the law of cosines. The law of cosines is used when you have two sides and one included angle. For example, if I knew side A and side C, and I was given the included angle of angle B, then I would use the law of cosines. Because with the law of sines, you needed something opposite. Well, you don't have anything opposite. You don't know two things about the one letter. Another situation that you would use the law of cosines is if you were given all three side lengths and no angles. So those are your two possibilities for law of cosines. Now, the law of cosines, you're going to pick one of those. Whether you want to solve for A, B, or C, then you use the rest of it. It's kind of a play on the Pythagorean theorem. But after you do that, if you're asked to solve the whole triangle, the law of cosines is your first step. Your second step is going to be that law of sines again. So you're going to need the law of sines to do this as well. So at the bottom of page 18, we want to solve this triangle, and we're given side A is 12, side C is 16, and angle B is 38 degrees. So we're given our two sides and our included angle, the angle in the middle of the two sides. So first thing we want to do is we're given an angle for B. So I'm going to use my law of cosines, and I'm going to find side B. Oops, that should be C. Alright, so we're still trying to find B squared, or B. So now we're going to plug in everything we're given. A is 12. C is 16, A is 12, C is 16, and we know angle B is 38 degrees. So now I'm going to put this right here, in my calculator. When I do that, I get 97.4. Now that still gives me B squared. I don't want B squared, so I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So the side length of B is roughly 9.9. Alright, so now we know that. Now, if you look at your triangle, you know everything there is to know about B. You know its side length and you know its angle, which those are the criteria to be able to use the law of sines. So your first step is your law of cosines to find your missing side. Your second step is your law of sines. So I know everything about B, so that's going to be one part of my fraction. Then I can either find angle A or angle C. It does not matter. I'm going to just do C. So C is 16 over sine of C. So because I'm trying to find an angle, I'm going to have to do the inverse, the sine to the negative 1. So I cross multiply. When I do that, I get 0.99 equals sine of C. And if you round it to 1, that's perfectly fine. Just remember, your answer may differ based on how you round it. So I'm trying to find an angle, so I'm going to take the inverse. When I plug that into my calculator, I get roughly 82 degrees. So angle A, or angle C, is 82 degrees. Now my last step is I'm going to use what I know about triangles. All three angles add up to be 180. So I'm going to subtract the two angles that I know from 180, and I get 60 degrees. So angle A is 60 degrees. And if you look at your angles and your sides, they match up. The smallest angle, which is 38, is across from the smallest side. The biggest angle, which is 82, is across from the biggest side. So the triangle itself makes sense. Alright, look at the top of page 19. Alright, this time you're not given the image of what it should look like. But you know the idea of a triangle. It's got 3 sides. So you can sketch one. Alright, so now we're going to fill in what we know. Side A is 4.8. Side C is 11.25. And angle B is 142.5 degrees. So again, you're given the 2 sides and the included angle. Now we have to figure out the rest of it. So first thing is our law of cosines. We're going to delete this one real quick. Because we're just going to skip that example too. Alright, and we know our angle B, so we're going to go ahead and try to find side B. So our law of cosines. Now we're just going to fill in. Angle is 142.5. Now that whole side, all that, gets put in my calculator. When I put that in my calculator, I get b squared is 235.3 rounded. So remember, I don't want b squared, so I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and I get side B is 15.3. So we found that out. Alright, so I've done my law of sines, my first step. My law of cosines. Second step is to go back and use your law of sines, because now you know an angle and its appropriate side. So step 2 is our law of sines. So the only thing we know both about is side B, or angle B too. Got that one set up. Now it comes down to we want to solve for angle A or angle C. It does not matter. So we're going to go ahead and just use C again. And remember, because we're trying to find an angle, we're going to have to use the inverse. So cross multiply, and we get sine C is 0.45 rounded. So we're going to take the inverse, and we get C, angle C, is equal to 26.7 degrees rounded. So our last step is to take 180 and subtract both of our given angles. When we subtract that, we get angle A is 10.8 degrees. And again, your triangle makes sense because your smallest angle is across from your smallest side, biggest angle across from your biggest side. Alright, we're going to skip that next problem, and we're going to go to the one at the very bottom of the page. Alright, this one, you're given all 3 sides. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my triangle just to get the visual of it. So you're given A is 8, B is 12, C is 10. So I can't use my law of sines first because I don't have any angles. And I can't use the law of cosines as we've been using it because I don't have any angles, I know. But now I know all 3 sides. So I'm going to have to try to solve for an angle. So I'm going to pick an angle to find first. It does not matter which one. but I'm going to go ahead and just use A. So first step is I use all three sides in my law of cosines. Because this is the only formula. Law of sines doesn't allow you to be able to solve for angles when you don't know any angles. The law of sines actually lets you solve for angles if you know all three sides. So we're going to plug in what we know. And the only thing we don't know is what angle A is. So I'm going to simplify that equation the way I can. So 8 squared is 64. 12 squared plus 10 squared is 244. Then I've got 2 times 12 times 10, which is 240. Alright, so now I'm going to solve an equation. I'm going to get that cosine of A all by itself. So I'm going to move 244 over first. So now you've got negative 240 times the cosine of A, so we're going to divide. That gives us 3/4, or 0.75, either one, equals the cosine of A. So now we're still trying to find an angle, so we're going to take the inverse. So cosine of -1 of 0.75.